Thank you again for tuning into another episode of How I Franchise This. I'm incredibly excited to be joined by Patricia and Felipe. They are going to tell you their awesome story about how they got into a franchise, business ownership, the journey that they've been on, and everything in between. I don't want to spoil it for for them, but they'll share the brand that they're involved in and how they got into it. So let's turn it over to you guys. Would love for you to introduce yourselves and share which brand you're a franchisee of.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. We're very excited to be here and to share a little bit about our journey. We are currently the owners of a LuminLash franchise, which is an eyelash extension franchise that started here in Houston. And we've been with the franchise for about 4 or 5 months now. So yeah, everything has been great so far.
And what were you guys doing before? Oh, sorry, Patricia.
No worries. It's fine. Well, my name is Patricia. I am co-owner with Felipe. He's my husband, and we start, as he said, like 4 months ago. We have the Riverstone location. Actually, LuminLash has 3 different locations in Houston area. So we are the owners of the Riverstone location. We're from Mexico, so we're entrepreneurs and here in the United States, so it's kind of excited. And well, we are so happy to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you again for coming on. I think our goal with this show is to help others that were in a similar spot that you guys were in before you became a franchisee. They might have been working a corporate job, they were doing something else, or maybe they've owned 10 other franchises and are just looking for the next concept. We want to share those stories and highlight people like you that have taken that risk. You've bet on yourselves, and you're kind of living that entrepreneurial dream. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to share your story and what you've learned along the way. So with that, I'd love to hear, what were you guys doing before franchising, or what did you guys do for work? How did you guys get into this?
I guess the story starts with Patricia and I meeting back in Mexico. We were both born and raised in Mexico, and we met in Mexico City when we started working for the same company the very same day. We dated for a while, and I moved to Houston after a couple months to work here in oil and gas, in trading. Couple months later, we got married, and Patricia came here to the US as well. She started working in oil and gas trading as well. She was in corporate social responsibility. And we, were in a very corporate setting. We liked our jobs, yes, but every time we always wondered at night when we were talking, like, hey, is this really what we want to be doing the rest of our lives? Waking up every day to sit in the same desk, filling Excel spreadsheets forever. And every time we would reach the conclusion that that's not really what we wanted, right? And a little bit after that, I started an MBA at Rice here in Houston. And, Rice has a good program related with entrepreneurship. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, and I always, had this, I would say, mental block about it being something very difficult and something that is, it would be crazy for me to abandon my career and just be an entrepreneur. But as this sentiment that we had, Patricia and I, of, liking the corporate setting every time a little bit less, we reached the conclusion like, hey, let's create something that is ours. If we're putting all these hours and all this time, why don't do it for ourselves, for our family? Why don't create something that we can build and expand? So that's pretty much our background.
Yeah.
All right, so you're working in oil and gas. You're in Houston. You're getting your MBA. How did you land on eyelash extensions? Of all franchises. And did you ever think about doing like an independent business instead of a franchise? Like, what brought you to franchising, I guess, is the first question. And then how did you find LuminLash as the brand specifically?
So I'm going to share a little bit on how we reached that. Patricia will expand on why specifically LuminLash. It's definitely not the business that I had in mind. Something that I was very aware of is given how different the both the cultural landscape and business setting is from Mexico to the U.S., and that there were a lot of more intricate things that we were not very familiar with when starting a business. We realized that probably finding a franchise which had already an established system and processes that we can follow, we felt that for our potential investment, it would be safer, and it would allow us to reach the point where we wanted without so much risk. So yeah. And how we came to decide LuminLash, where a good friend of ours, his name is Jonathan, he referred us to Charles and Rachel, who are the franchisors. We looked at a variety of very different businesses, many different ideas, many different franchises. And Patricia, for a while since she came to the U.S., she was a little bit surprised about how different beauty salons and the beauty industry is here as compared to our home countries. I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on that.
Well, definitely the moment when we think about starting a business or live the life that we used to, it's when we become a parents. We start our new family. So for me as a woman, I really love the word that I used to. Social responsibility has a lot of things to take, and I really love that word. But being in a corporation, it's hard when you want to growing up as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a family, So that's why I push, not to push him, but to think about and start a new business and something for us, for our family. Definitely the process that give us a franchise was the differentiation, the difference to start from zero to scratch a new business. And yes, we think about to start from zero. As he said, I love the beauty industry, but I'm really involved with holistic lifestyle, so I thought in many things to like a yoga studio or something like that. But at the end, we focus on the beauty business.
And was that, so that's partly because, all right, so you guys decided maybe from scratch, franchise allows us to, shave some of that risk off, right? Because there's a proven playbook, there's a system, there's a franchisee group of, or a group of franchisees that can support you and a franchisor. And then beauty, it sounded like you started to gravitate towards and explore, given, Patricia's your interest in, some of those businesses that you were interested in. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. There were many options out there, but ever since Patricia, became interested in how the beauty industry worked here in the U.S. and she got a sense that business was booming, particularly here in Houston. After looking at some numbers and seeing growth projections for the beauty industry, we also realized hey, I think this is a great opportunity. I think LuminLash has a lot of potential to to have a substantial share of the eyelash market in this city and this state. We talked a lot with Charles and Rachel, who have been in this business for a very long time and are truly experts. And we felt very confident that this was a good investment, that it was a good franchise with a good system, and that it had the potential to be very profitable and to show a lot of growth.
So I was going to ask that next too. So it's all right. You start to hone in on, you're going to buy a business. Franchising feels like a de-risked way to do it. You started to hone in on, the industry in beauty that, that you were interested in. and then it was finding the right brand. And you said the financials were good. You liked the founding team. Was there any moment that you guys started to narrow that list down and you know, that made you pause, I guess, that you got to like a top one or two brands and you said, I don't know, should we actually do this? And if there was that moment, how did you overcome it?
Definitely. I mean, we reached a point where we had three different options. It was LuminLash and two other companies in the home services industry. And I mean, the three are great brands, of course, but we also wanted to be in something we liked or enjoyed, and we something that, you know, it's I look forward to be working on this and dedicating my time and my passion, and that I believe in more than just, you know, a generic business, right? So aside from our personal interest in you know, the fit with the specific brand, sorry, when running the numbers, when coming up with some projections, it made more sense for us to go with LuminLash.
Yep. How important was the team, you know, like the team at LuminLash and their story and their support that they were going to provide and meeting them? Was that a really, you know, critical part of your decision too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like we mentioned, our investment decision, we wanted something that was already, you know, established. We wanted a franchise because we wanted to mitigate certain risks. And for a franchise to be successful, in our point of view, you have to have you know, a robust support system. And also, like, you have to have confidence in the founders. And every conversation we had with Rachel, with Charles, every time we visited their locations, we really got that confidence. We felt that, you know, we'd have the support we needed. Once we started the process, they were with us. I mean, they are with us every time, but they were like very intensively training us. I think Patricia can speak a little bit more about the actual day-to-day and how present Rachel and Charles were.
Yeah, well, they are very good franchisors. They join me or join us all the time. In more that day-to-day work, Rachel is next to me every day. I don't know. I'm really sure that each day I have something to ask her after 4 months. And well, I'm in the process of learning everything of the business, since the front desk, the administrative stuff, like how to lead the stylish. Even the stylish in our location have many years working on lashes. So, well, it's not the same. I have to learn how to involve and connect with them. So, well, for me, have been a really good challenge as an owner, as a person. Well, so, and Rachel definitely has been with us as well. Charles with the marketing, with everything about every single questions they had time to resolve and to giving us a answer.
So it sounds like they have really good support, and they've been a phenomenal group to work with. I guess one question I have for you guys is, all right, you pick the brand, you sign the agreement. You know, what were the first, few months like after signing? I mean, did you have to go find a site? I mean, were you guys, was it a ton of work up front and it started to slow down a little bit now? And what are those first few months like after you signed the agreement?
You know, we aside from the franchise, we decided to acquire from Charles and Rachel themselves one of the locations they had running before. We of course discussed different territories and options, but in terms of preferred location for us and what would better fit our investment expectations, we decided to go for one of the locations they already had running. So it was not so much as, starting from scratch and finding yourself without doing, because a lot of things were already built, of course. but it was more about making sure the system that we bought into could be implemented properly, that we could get acquainted with the process, that we could understand the industry correctly, that we could understand our existing customers, because despite buying an existing location, we wanted to keep the regular customers and increase the number of customers, right? So for that, we wanted to make sure we maintain the same level of excellence and professionalism that Rachel and Charles already have. And that's, of course, challenging, right? Because you have these people that have been in this industry and in this place for years, for a lot of time, who have made sure to build a specific, very solid brand. And, being completely new to this space and taking over, of course, it's challenging. So you have to put in a lot of effort to make sure you, at the very least, maintain that same level, right? And from there, of course, grow it.
And did you know that you were going to buy an existing location from the beginning? Once you just decided on LuminLash, did you know, hey, let's go buy an existing versus developing a new location? Or was that a decision you made along the way?
I think it was first the brand, and very shortly after, the decision to acquire, the conversation to hey, I know you have these places, these locations. What chances are there for us to, structure a transaction where we acquire something that is already, going?
Very interesting. And so, unlike other franchisees that are, in some cases are developing this brand new location, they have to go find a site. You inherited, a business that's already operating, so you have to jump right in, right? It's already going. There's already customers. There's already stylists. What was that experience like, getting up to speed quickly? And then what does your day-to-day, routine look like now? How involved are you guys in the business day to day? And what does a typical week look like for both of you?
Sure. I guess I can speak a little bit about those challenges, and Patricia will probably give you a better insights on the day to day. And of course, anytime you open a business, or buy a business, it's gonna be challenging. It's different. A different kind of challenge when you buy into something that is that already existed and was running, especially if you don't have prior experience in that industry. So a lot of it was, just being there, present every day, understanding the current processes, speaking with current employees and customers to make sure you were getting the correct notion of the business, working very closely with the franchisors, because not only are they the franchisor, but they were the previous owners, right? So there's a lot of things you can learn from them, and thankfully they were very helpful in that process. So not gonna lie, it was very challenging. It was a lot of time. It was a lot of learning, but I think it's really paid off. And I think Patricia can share a little bit about how day to day is.
Yes, well, being a general manager of LuminLash have been a really challenge, because I have to learn a lot, and this kind of business. But I find out that it's a cycle, because we move in a seasonal ways. So we each day we have to base in the customer service. So because you have to know how to pick up the phone, how to respond text message, how to talk with the client, and try to guess what the client wants. Because sometimes even the women, they don't know what they want. They know that they want a different style, they want eyelashes, but they don't know. So it's more that connect with people in that part, when I'm in the front, that these months I spend many time in the front, because I want to be involved with the business and know what our clients want, really want. Because in other things that have to do day to day. It's all the administrative tasks, like get supplies, like be sure that the studio is ready to get more customers, receive new our customers, that all the appointments be on time, try to reach the clients if they are late or if they are early. So, well, and work side by side with the stylist, because they know the clients. They have many regular clients, so they know what each lady wants in their appointments. So, well, that's have been for me my learn to learn every day. So, well, other thing that I have to do every day is to get all the human resource part or area, because other thing of the business is that we have different kind of employees. So we have a regular stylist, we have senior stylists, we have many stylists that they have a different functions in the business. So, well, that's
Yeah, I think also that's something that's very important to notice. Of course, there can be many type of franchisees, right? And depending on what are investment expectations and what you're looking to get out of your franchise. For us, and particularly for the Lumin brands, it's something it's a product or a service so personal, right? It's your eyelashes or permanent makeup or your brows, being something so personal and that requires such attention to detail. We really wanted to be present to understand every single aspect of it. We wanted to make sure we understood what our employees were doing, but also what they wanted and what they needed, and that we were able to provide that to make sure things were running as smoothly as possible. So I guess for our particular way of doing things and how we were looking at the business, it's being there every day, and of course not every day from 9 to 5, right? But making sure things are running and not just coordinating from the outside. So we've been very, very involved in the operation itself.
Yeah, you have to really immerse yourself into, as Patricia said, like learning the administrative work, the front of house, HR piece, even the technique that your team is using, et cetera. I think it's important to immerse yourself like that in the early days, especially, and then as you mentioned, over time, you can start to pull yourself out a little bit. And I think that kind of leads to my next question is, as you guys get this first one down and you get the routine and the rhythm, is your plan to expand into second, third, fourth locations? Or is this kind of, hey, we're going to focus on just this one for a while and that's okay? That's where we're going to stop for now.
Expansion is definitely the plan. We're not sure exactly what the time horizon will be, but we have, we're very growth driven. So we definitely want to go for the next location. We already have ideas of where that could be, but of course we want to make sure things are as smooth as possible here, so we can start focusing on the next step.
Yep, that makes sense. And so just switching gears a little bit, I just want to focus on like one or two questions about your guys' reflections, your advice to others listening that might want to get into business ownership, whether that's franchising or not. But the first question I have is, what do you think some people completely get wrong about the franchise business model in general, or just franchising in general?
I think, and there's probably a lot of misunderstanding or wrong information out there when it comes to franchises. And I think people have to understand that you're essentially investing in a system and that you have to follow that system, but you also have to make sure that system fits with your expectations and your with how you want to carry out a business, right? It's very important to be aware of that. And you're also probably not buying into a job, right? You're buying an idea of the business that you want to grow, that fits with your lifestyle, with your expectations, and that you have to work and to make it grow as an owner, right? Not precisely as an employee. Of course, it's very important to know all the details, to know what you're doing, and to know the team that you're leading. But it's also important to not lose sight of the bigger picture of owning a business.
Yep. I think that's good advice. What about, if you were to reflect back on everything you've learned so far, if someone listening was just at the beginning of their journey, and it could also be them looking for their 10th business to buy, but they're just getting started out as far as, getting into the next search, what advice would you give someone looking at franchises right now?
I mean, definitely get to know very well your franchisor, the team that is behind the franchise. If things feel great, that's good. That's a strong maybe. If you don't like something, or you feel that your instinct is telling you that something's off, dive a little bit deeper and ask more questions. I think the part of the whole franchise acquisition process for us was a lot of face-to-face interactions. And if you're not used to making a lot of questions, a lot of digging deeper into the numbers, or asking the tough questions, speaking with other franchisees, you're probably not going to get the full picture. And if you're putting your money into something like a franchise, you really want to understand and know as much as you can before you make a decision. So that's definitely the number one advice. Get to know and research as much as you can. And of course, make sure that people you're interacting with during the process is people you're going to enjoy working with, right? Because you're going to buy into that business for a long time. Yeah. And you want to make sure you trust the people that you're going to be working with.
Yeah, I joke with people. I think the franchise, that you choose is the second most important relationship you choose in your life, behind your wife or your spouse. You're going to be with them for 10 years probably, and you better like each other and work well together. And it's really critical. I think some people overlook that. They just look at the numbers and like, oh, how much money am I going to make? And what's this going to cost me? And it's like, whoa, you are also going to work with that guy and that girl and that team for 10 years. And you should really know who they are and what their beliefs are. And do you guys align? And if things get tough, how are you guys going to work together? And what does that look like? And that's a really important piece that I don't think people pay as much attention to as they should.
No, yeah, completely. Totally. Another thing, I guess this goes without saying, but nonetheless, make sure that you understand the FDD and the all the contracts completely. If you feel that you require counsel to give you some insights or explain you some legal terms, definitely do that. You don't want to be signing into a 10-year contract that you don't understand. So that's always, probably a lot of your viewers will already know this, but I think it's a very important step to not overlook it.
Yeah, definitely. We spend a lot of time doing that.
Good. You got to do your due diligence. Although I see with franchise agreements, a lot of the times they're not willing to budge or negotiate anything.
Right. It's more about you understanding everything and you being very clear, because you're not going to negotiate the contracts, right, or the FDD that is already set, of course. But if being in a contract, it's always important to make sure you understand every single word of it, because that prevents unwanted misunderstandings throughout the life of the contract, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I completely agree with that. One of our goals and hopes with Franzi is that can we educate people up front on what is an FDD even to begin with, and an FA, and why are they so kind of rigid and locked in stone, and what can I negotiate and not, and what am I getting myself into, and expectation setting, because I agree. I think that's a point a lot of brands and just individuals get wrong out of the gate, is they're misaligned on expectations, and there's just kind of a lapse in communication. So an attorney is a really good way to help kind of clear some of that up and make sure you've checked everything.
Or someone that has prior experience in this space, for example, right? Some that is able to make that bridge between your expectations and what the franchisor is telling you, right?
Yep. Well, Patricia and Felipe, I really, I'm super grateful that you guys were willing to take the time to share your story, how you got into it, why you picked the brand, how you picked the brand, what your day-to-day life looks like. If people want to reach out and learn more about one, being a customer of your business, or just connecting with you on LinkedIn, where can they find you? Where should we send them?
Definitely. You can find us on Instagram. Like we're just starting with social media, so it's at LuminLash_Riverstone. So that's
Okay.
where you can reach out to us.
LuminLash_Riverstone. All right, check it out. Thank you guys both again so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Very much.
Alex.